parks have been created so locals and tourists can visit the animals. They actually allow their guests to hop in their personal cars and drive all around the tiger enclosure completely unsupervised. The park does have one hard and fast rule, and that is at no point during the drive-through tour should anyone ever get out of their car or roll their window down. A husband, a wife, their young daughter, and the girl's grandmother decided to go to Battling Park. After paying for an unguided tour, they opened the gates and the family rolled into the tiger enclosure inside of their white sedan. Everyone seemed to be having a great time until the wife in the front passenger seat claimed she was carsick. And then the wife promptly got out of the car. The woman shuts her door and walks around the front of the car until she's right in front of the driver's side door. She leans in to talk to her husband, and as soon as she does, a Siberian tiger comes running out of the forest, lunges towards the car, grabs onto her, and pulls her off camera back into the forest. The husband immediately leaps out of the car. The grandmother has now opened the back door and she's jumped out as well, and the two of them run off into the forest. As soon as the husband and grandmother ran off into the woods, a second Siberian tiger immediately leapt out and latched onto the grandmother, killing her instantly. The wife would survive the attack, but would suffer very serious injuries. As for the husband, he would escape with minor injuries, and the child who stayed in the car was totally unharmed. The Battling Park was forced to put up more signage on either end of this driving tour to make it very clear to anybody going through that they had to stay in their car with the windows up the entire time. The woman who survived the attack sued the park for $2 million US. She claims a culture of rampant victim blaming has ruined her life. She's quoted as saying people's words were perhaps scarier than the mouth of a tiger. In the winter, when the ground was frozen solid, Kurt was having a hard time putting his fill bin underneath his grain auger, and so he did what he did best. He improvised. Imagine this big tube where in the middle of it is this big rotating metal screw. Because the auger is basically a giant rotating blade, there's this big safety grate that's on the outside to make sure the only things getting sucked into the auger are really small, things like grain. Kurt realized if he removed the safety screen, he could easily fit the fill bin underneath. And after a couple of days of operating the auger without the screen, he just kind of forgot about it. Fast forward a few months, Kurt needed to move some grain from one bin to another. And so he fired up the auger, and as he was walking right near the entrance to the auger, he tripped, and he fell feet first into the opening of the auger. And right away, his left foot got sucked up into the rotating metal screw, and before he'd even fallen back onto the ground, he could tell his left foot had been cut clean off. But that wasn't the worst of it, because the rest of his leg was still getting pulled into the shaft. That screw was going to keep on turning, and he could not get to the turn-off switch. And so he immediately starts fumbling for his phone, and he realizes he left it in the shed. There's no one anywhere near him. No one's going to hear him scream. As he can feel himself being pulled closer and closer to the machine, he only had one thought: survive. Kurt realized he had his pocket knife. He pulled it out. It was a 4-inch blade, and he realized he could cut his leg off. But he had to time it right. If he didn't cut through fast enough, the auger would rotate all the way around and would pull more of his leg, the area he was cutting, into the auger. So he'd have to start all over again. And so he watched the rotating screw and he timed it so he reached down and cut through his leg as fast as he could right before the rotation of the auger caught up again. And as soon as he cut through, he fell backwards, rolled onto his stomach, and began army crawling all the way 200 meters back to his shed, where he pulled himself up inside, he got his phone, and he called his son, and he very calmly told him that he had his leg cut off in the auger. Kurt was soon airlifted to a hospital where doctors were able to perform a real amputation on him. For a little while after his accident, Kurt was a celebrity. He was all over the news. But apparently, he just did not care at all about that. All he wanted to do was put a prosthetic on and go back to work. And sure enough, only a few weeks after having his leg ripped off by an auger, he was back out working on an auger with a prosthetic leg. Just know that I really appreciate your support, and until next time, that's going to do it. See ya.